So welcome to Reykjavik again, Friends of Iceland. My name is Valur, your friend in Reykjavik, and we're gonna discover the settlement museum here in downtown Reykjavik together now. So I'm gonna switch the view for you and let's see how it goes. So I started inside because I didn't want any problems with YouTube channel. So I started this, started inside just to make sure. So when they were excavating here, when they were building a hotel here in downtown Reykjavik, they came upon this ruin. And as you'll come to discover, we have all reason to believe that this is maybe the house of the original settler of Iceland, Mr. Ingólfur Árnason, the first settler according to the Book of Settlements and one of the Icelandic sagas that tell us a story about the settlement of Iceland, who were the original settlers of Iceland, and yeah. We're just outside here. You can maybe say the sheriffs. You can see the statue there in the middle. I don't want to go out because I don't want to lose the Wi-Fi connection. So this is called the settlement exhibition or landnámssýningin. Good morning, Angie, Barbara, John, Martin, and Star, eða Stjarna. So we have this is a very nice visit for families, for example. You can play around with various objects like, do you know what this is? Hnefatafl. It's the king's table. This is like an old game, Viking game. And yep. So we have a small sail area. And here you can see a little bit of info about this. So, Íslendingabók, the Book of Icelanders, and Landnámabók, the Book of Settlements, are the oldest written sources in the origins of the Icelanders and their settlement of the country. The Book of Icelanders was written about 1130 AD and contains an account of the history of Iceland from the settlement to 1118. And the Book of Settlement exists in 3 manuscripts from the 13th and the 14th century. And the Book of Settlement recounts where the early settlers came from and where they settled. Many scholars are skeptical of the historical value of the Book of Settlement, while most regard the Book of Icelanders as most reliable. And the manuscripts are preserved at the Árni Magnússon Institute in Reykjavik, and we're probably going to visit that on a later live stream. So according to these stories, Ingólfur was the first settler here back in around 1874, and we have all reason to believe that maybe this is just what we're going to discover here. This house over here that we're going to check out. That's the original house of Mr. Ingólfur. Hi Vanessa, hi Julie, hi Nozomi, all the way from Tokyo. So this is what you see here is a kind of a remains of a big Viking house over here. So the remains of a 10th century hall excavated in 2001. The hall was inhabited from around 930 to 1000 AD. But there are some areas of this house here that date back even earlier. So people are saying 871 plus minus 2 years. So that's the oldest accounts of a building here in Reykjavik. Hi Patrick and Lynette and Annette. John, was it found here or moved here? It was found here when they were excavating for a hotel here, and they came up on this Viking house. And according to the Book of Settlements, this Viking called the Ingólfur he threw overboard a couple of high-seat pillars, couple of logs. They were carved out with signs of Odin, Thor, the Old Norse gods. And where they would cast ashore, where they would be found, that would basically be a sign from the gods of where to settle. And after a couple of years' time, they found them here, these logs, here in Reykjavik, which translates to Smoky Bay, because when Ingólfur arrived here, when he sent out the slaves to find these logs, and when he came here, he saw smoke coming up from a couple of hot springs, so he called it Smoky Bay, Reykjavik. Some skeptics say that probably maybe it was chosen because it has plenty of great things about Reykjavik at the time. You know, there were walruses in the bay, there were fishing, there were salmon and trout in the rivers. You could do iron smelting. But so 3 walrus tooth have been found in this Viking house. And here are some of the artifacts that have been found here. So sheep's legs bone, remnants of a shoe, bone object, beaters. I don't remember if this is interactive or not. Yeah, something. And the great auk was actually a big bird that couldn't fly. And it was a great resource here for centuries. Unfortunately, we basically wiped them out here. I saw some information about the great auk somewhere here. Where was it? Yeah, bones of the great auk have been found. So here's a grindstone, and a door weight, and here we have some spindle whorls, semi-precious stones. Sorry about that, I didn't tilt it enough. And So yeah, they lived off the, there was plenty of fish, like I told you earlier, birds, hunted seal, walruses, even whales, small whales. And back in the day, there was woodland here. Not the biggest trees, but still. And one of the reasons many historians believe that Reykjavik could have been chosen was that they could smelt iron here from bog iron. Spindlewort. This spindlewort has an inscription in runic letters. Vilborg owns me. I'm owned by Vilborg. These runes are of the Futhark alphabet, the alphabet of the Old Norse Vikings. Named after its first 6 letters, which was commonly used in Scandinavia at the time. Before this site has been excavated, only a handful of runic inscriptions had been found in Iceland, but this excavation unearthed the objects with 5 objects with runic lettering. And here we have a silver bracelet. It was found in the area, not in this house, but there are a couple of excavations here. Hi Donna, hi Tracy, hi Anne. Well, happy you found me too, Donna. So here are some bone pins, soapstones, beads. Yeah, Julie, of course, the majority of the settlers were Norse, so yeah, runes were here prevalent also. A hammer. So this is probably how the house looked here. Do you see how big the pond was back in the day? No, Gunnar, just in this house alone, they found 5 objects with runic script. Just in this building, just in this excavation, they found 5 pieces with runic inscriptions. Here are some knives. And keys. This may be the key to the door of the hall. Arrowhead. Fish hooks. And they say here, wood is generally poorly preserved in the grounds in Iceland, except where the soil is saturated with water. Because, yeah, we're not the best conditions here, the volcanic soil. And so here are some tree nails, tine, some kind of long wooden object with holes, possibly a part of furniture, something like that. Maybe from a boat. At the age of the settlement, the lake was newly formed, separated from the sea by a gravel ridge. So there was just a tiny gravel ridge. Can you imagine if you have been to Iceland? So there was just a tiny, like a ridge separating the pond from the actual sea of Faxaflói. Hi Beverly. Hi Judith. Hi Sharon. So you can see the outlines here of the building. And you see the fire. There was usually a hearth in the middle of these Viking cabins. So like a hearth in the middle, and this was the kind of like the back door entrance. And then you see the outlines of the chamber here. Christina from Cyprus. Hi Toril. So, was Reykjavik a chieftain's manor? Like the written sources say that the first 4 generations of Reykjavik residents played an important role in the development of our Icelandic constitution. Ingólfur, being the first settler, he was instrumental in his family in deciding about the chieftainship here. And as he said, his son, Þorkell, was law speaker at the Alþingi. So he was like the guy, so we had like a parliament, the first, well, some say it's the first parliament in the world where the country ruled itself. There was no like monarch or something like that. And every part of Reykjavik had a part in this. I think Alþingi. I connected with the Wi-Fi, but I see there's some kind of unstable internet connection. Maybe the Wi-Fi here is not the best. That wouldn't be a surprise. Okay, John. Okay, thank you for letting me know, John. There's some kind of I'm probably on a black spot or a dark spot for the Wi-Fi. So they're saying here, when the early settlers arrived, the hills around Reykjavik were covered in birch woods. Only 100 years later, the woods had all but disappeared. Trees were cut down and burned to make grazing and meadowland. The wood was also used to make charcoal, which was necessary for iron smelting and working. The loose volcanic soil didn't help. So we basically, historians say that Iceland was covered in trees. 1/4 of the country was covered in trees, but when the first settlers arrived, but we basically wiped out the trees here in a couple of 100 years. One reason why I feel like this is probably the house of Ingólfur, the first settler, is that maybe we'll be able to check it out later. The first graveyard is straight in front of the building. There's a well here really close by called Ingólfur's Well, the Well of Ingólfur. And the dates also match. I'm going to show you here. So you can take a peek here. There's a glass dome here on top in front of the hotel called Fjallakötturinn. And so you can take a peek here down. And I always when I do a walking tour here, we point this out and talk a little bit about the original settlers. So this is the entryway to the building over here. So it faces Aðalstræti, or the main street, of course, in Reykjavik. Yeah, so it's like the outlines of it. So, what did people believe in? They say no religious artifacts have been found in the Viking Age layers in Reykjavik, and no pre-Christian graves have been found in the area. The earliest evidence of a church at Reykjavik is from about 1200 AD, but probably I think there was a church here long before that. The graveyard was here from around 930, and I think a church probably from the year 1000, when you switched, from the old paganism or the belief in the old Norse gods to Christianity. Hi Annabelle, hi Alison. Some historians believe that they used, there was a small river or creek running from the sea to the pond, Reykjavik pond. And some people believe that the Vikings basically used this creek to go with their boats up to rest in the pond, so it was safe from the natural elements. Yeah, the seashore was much closer than it is today. The shoreline was where Hafnarstræti is now. Okay, that's just about 100 meters from here. So this is another house, the outlines of another house, just by the other one. So here we see a part of the low turf wall, the oldest man-made structure found in Reykjavik. And that's where we're talking about the 871 plus minus 2 years. So we are fortunate enough to have these volcanic eruptions, fortunate enough, so to speak, that we have these ash layers that makes it very easy for us to, basically, if it's on top of this ash layer or below this ash layer, it makes it easy for us to date things. So there was a big volcanic eruption, 871 plus minus 2 years, and part of this wall fragment is older than that layer of ash. So we have all these reason to believe that the book of settlement that dates the settlement from around 874 is probably nearly correct. Even keep in mind that, the book of Icelanders was written like 230 years later, or 260 years later, like 1130. So this was based on word of mouth and stories. So here you see a little bit more about the settlement layer. A layer of ash or tephra from an enormous eruption in the Torfajökull area. The layer has been found in many places in Iceland, just underneath the oldest traces of human habitation. The layer is easy to identify as it is two-colored, unlike any other Icelandic tephra layer from historic times. So, remnants of human habitation beneath the settlement layer of tephra have only been definitely identified at one other site in Iceland, at Húsholmi in Krýsuvík in the southwest. That structure was also a well which was built before, when the tephra fell. So Willow was asking me how to donate if you want to tip a little bit. So here is a link to my PayPal account, if you would be so kind, and here is a Patreon site if that's something that basically supports me on a monthly basis. And then we have also buymeacoffee.com, Friend Reykjavik. So that's also an option. Buy me a couple of coffees or coffee. I'm not greedy. Hi Emma. So here you can see the outlines of the building, how it looked. So the entrance was where we started off over there. Sorry for the click. The entrance where we ended up, that was like the back door over there where we started off. There's a little bit of construction because they're building a passage from the oldest house in Reykjavik, dating back from 1762. They're building a passage here beneath, so you can walk between those two areas. Thank you, Annette. Thank you, Julie. So what do we have here? So cultural affinity. Do you see that? I think it's closer to 90% about the Norse, but so 80% of Icelandic male settlers were Norse, while about 62% of the female settlers were Celtic. So what happened? I've told this joke before. You know, the Norse Vikings on the way to Iceland, they dropped on the British Isles, asked the women there politely to go to a cruise with them to the north, and they just happily obliged and went with them to Iceland. Right? Proper history. So let's check this out a little bit. Yeah, here we have, sorry, I'm trying to work this. So buildings share common features, curved long walls, and are internally divided into 3 aisles with a central fireplace. So that was a very common thing in Iceland. Like I told you earlier, I'm going to show you again. You know, there's this like hearth in the middle of there, in the middle of that building. So Oh, sorry. And long fire. Sorry, having a bit of a problem with my gimbal. Sorry. The long fire is one of its largest so far excavated in Iceland, and it's unusually well made. So that gives us an inclination that this was probably a pretty wealthy person that owned this. Patrick, yes, I'm looking forward to the Light Festival on Saturday also. It's going to be phenomenal. They're going to make it bigger than ever. So we have a couple of things to show you on Saturday at 7 p.m. GMT. There's going to be a whole lot of fun. The origins of the Icelandic domestic animals can provide clues to where the settlers came from. You know, mostly came from Norway. That's just basic. If you've seen my Reykjavik Zoo video, then maybe get a... Place names can provide clues on migrations and cultural affinity. So, see, you know, similar related place names like in Iceland and of course the language. The modern Nordic language can be classified as a continental languages, and Iceland languages, Icelandic and Faroese, are closer to the Old Norse because of the isolation of Iceland. Bon appetit, John. You know, the Viking era is considered from around 793, the attack on Lindisfarne monastery in Ireland, and until 1066, I believe, on the Battle of Hastings. So that's like the beginning and the end of the Viking era. Yes, I've seen Annabelle, the Viking series. I've actually seen them, everything. It's not historically correct, but it's still fun. So this one is pretty important, like in the settlement Auður Djúpuga. A nice, really interesting story. She settled in Hvammur. Yeah, when Haraldur Harðráði, king of Norway, was defeated by the English king Harald Gudmundsson at Stamford Bridge in 1066. Some say that you know, there were Irish monks, papar, here before the Vikings arrived. Some say that you know, there are stories about the Ultima Thule, but for some reason they just disappeared after the Vikings arrived. Strange, right? So another overview of the house, the entrance over there, the hearth, the back entrance over here. Couple of artifacts. A Viking ship. So the Longhouse was the home of farmers, probably wealthy farmers. The estate was a good one with plentiful resources. A hall of this size may have housed about 10 people. 4 halls of the same period have been found in Reykjavik, so there maybe have been many households here as early as the 10th century. And the form and the structure of the hall is evidence of the Norse culture of those who built it. So, just want to show you one more thing maybe here before we cut this. And as I said, on Saturday we're going to be live from the Reykjavik Winter Festival. It's going to be hopefully awesome. I know last year's was really cool. Okay, there was like a, okay, it was like a, you know, you could move with this thing over here, but obviously it's out of order now. So they probably say that there's a little bit of a community here in Reykjavik. So without a doubt, the first kind of town or community in Iceland. And but it, you know, Reykjavik ceased to be in the history books from around 1000 until finally when they started to urbanize here around the 17th century, 1750. So that's the heart in the middle. Tack, Angie. Hi, Sue, and thanks. So yeah, you get the gist of this. So hi guys, I think we're ending this soon. I'm going to show you one more room here before we head out. Maybe the gift store, should we? So they say here basically the reason why Ingólfur moved to Iceland was basically drinking too much, love affairs, and then brawling or killing. That's a picture of the great auk that I talked about earlier, that unfortunately is not with us anymore. It was exterminated, I believe, in the beginning of the 19th century. A giant love story. And here you can basically browse a little bit about the history. And even play around with your kids a little bit. Maybe this was a popular thing back in the day, to use the bones for displaying the animals. So you're herding these bones to the corrals, and so if you have children, you can bring them here and let them play with some Viking armor and give them a little bit of a breathing time between driving the Golden Circle or whatever. Takk fyrir mig. So yeah, guys, I'm gonna show you. I'm not sure if the connection will survive, but I'm gonna show you the outside. So we just we'll see if the connection dies on us. Then it dies on us, and then I'll just say goodbye before I head out. But I just wanna. So the settlement exhibition, and it's located here by the. So something going on, fire. So by the sheriff's garden. So takk fyrir mig. Við sjáumst á laugardag. We see you on Saturday. See you on Saturday at 7 p.m. GMT. It's going to be great. We have at least 20. They have like projected some artwork on outside Hallgrímskirkja Church, and several museums and Harpa, and we're gonna take a stroll and take a look at it and admire the scenery. So, takk fyrir mig. Sjáumst í.